In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, the unluckiest podcast in the world. Today we will be talking about a miserable Bears team. I think we've talked about this about 500 times, but this team is so frustrating. I just want to start off by saying you had the number one overall pick. You lucked out when you traded with the Panthers, and you ended up getting the blessing of the number one overall pick. You drafted Caleb Williams, who you're hoping is franchise quarterback for your team. And then you say, hey, we are going to do everything we can to develop him. So you get a stale ass, boring play caller, no offensive line, and you retain a bad head coach. I, I don't understand. You had you had the ability to just get rid of Matt Eberflus, and nobody would have batted an eye. Even Matt Eberflus supporters would have been like, "I get it, I get it." You know, is you were already having to replace his offensive coordinator. You could have just been and his defensive coordinator, and you could have just been like, you know what, we have to replace both of his coordinators in the same offseason. Let's just cut ties here. But you didn't. And I'm sure you have seen the graphic that's been floating around um, of the Chicago Bears on the road since 2022 with a 3-17 record and a minus 161 point differential and 0-17 on Sundays. That's that's so beyond unacceptable.
Hey, you want to hear another stat to go off of that to continue that?
Sure.
You know those three road wins you did have?
Yes.
You beat Bailey Zappi, Joshua Dobbs, and Sam Howell in those three games. Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, and Josh Dobbs. And Bailey Zappi came in after Mac Jones, who, as we know, was no ray of sunshine either for the Patriots. And keep this in mind too. Your signature wins as a whole in 2.5 years of this. You beat up the Lions really good at home last year. All right, that was a good win. That was your one. Yeah, you beat the 49ers in your first game in a monsoon with Trey Lance as the quarterback.
Who I don't even know if he's in the league anymore.
Was he technically with Dallas?
If he is, he's third string because Dak got hurt today and Trey Lance still didn't play.
Yeah, he's going to be out of the league if he isn't already. I mean, you're done. You are finished after last week.
Can I give you another stat?
Go ahead.
In the last 30 years, the Bears have allowed 6 touchdowns of 35 plus yards in the final seconds of a half. 2 of them in 1 week span.
Wow. Yeah. Last week was shocking. This week was just kind of funny. It was honestly pretty funny seeing that. I almost want to make a joke. Oh, well, there we could have put in the spy, but yeah, that I'm like, no, I'm just gonna leave it. Just gonna
I,
leave it.
I, I'm at the point where I've been in the keep polls, fire Eberflus camp. But after this game, I am in the fire them both camp. And my reasons why is one, what were the two biggest holes going into this season?
Oh, offensive line was the biggest one, that's for sure.
The other one was the other edge rusher.
Right.
So today you got a full glimpse of how they handled that. Is that offensive line was brutal with the backups, which Ryan Poles patted himself on the back for how well he did at making depth on this roster in the offensive line. And without Montez Sweat, this you saw just minimal pass rush when you needed it most, and definitely no ability to stop the run.
Well, that's the thing, is you saw today what you saw for the first year and a half, essentially, of the Eberflus regime. You couldn't stop the run. You got gashed in mercilessly. Mercilessly. And they were going high tempo, quick. They were just handing that ball off and they were just gashing you in over and over and over again. And even when you did get a big stop, what did you do? You committed a penalty on the field goal. Now, I think that rule is kind of silly, but you got to know the rule. I think it's ticky-tacky, but you know what? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
I mean, the officiating today was atrocious.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It didn't make the Bears any better or worse, but
No, in the first half, if the game would have been the first half, I'd have been like, yeah, it influenced the outcome of the game with how many missed pass interferences that there were. And just the missed holding calls and the ticky tack leveraging penalty. I mean, sometimes you have to look at that is by the letter of the law, was it? Yeah, but you have to weigh of like, hey, listen, we're giving the other team 4 points by calling this. And uh it was bad, but when you looked at the second half, the Bears just came out so flat, and this offense is bad. They are not. How on earth do you go into it drafting a guy who is arguably one of the best scrambling quarterbacks, like making plays on the scramble that have ever come out of college, and it looks like you don't practice the scramble drill. Nobody's on the same page. Nobody knows what they're doing. And you can see Caleb be frustrated. Like, I don't understand. The offense doesn't practice scramble drills. The defense clearly doesn't practice Hail Mary defense. This coaching staff is brutal.
and
It's brutal.
what's the common theme every week for at least the past 2 weeks? The common theme has been no discipline.
None.
No discipline. And what is the message to a head coach when your own players are publicly asking what the hell is going on? What does that say? When players are asking what's going on and you are hearing the words mutiny come out of media officials who have close connections with the team. Now, I'm not saying they're going to tie Matt Eberflus to a pole and make him walk the plank, but I think that locker room is going south fast. It is going south fast. And what I want to do is I want to sit Ding Dong George and Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren at the table. I want to look them all in the eye and say, how can you preach culture and being the good boys as you always want to be, and yet you let this happen. How do you say that you're so big on character, you're so big on culture and all these things, but this is what's happening? How can you say that's okay? And how can someone like Kevin Warren have the nerve to talk about continuity? You're consistently shit. So yeah, good job. You got continuity. You're consistently dog shit. If that is your bar, then good fucking job. You are at your bar. Because this franchise never raises the bar. Never. Ever, ever, ever. They never do it. They never think big. They never raise the bar. They can talk about tradition and this and that and the bear down, monsters of the Midway. When Mike Singletary comes out and publicly says it's time to stop living in 1985, what should that tell you?
When Kevin Warren said about the consistency, I threw up in my mouth. I was so angry. And then for some reason, I was like, well, I think the Bears are going to do okay this year, and they might be fighting for a playoff spot. And why on earth did I get duped again? I should have known. I mean, I did know. I did know right then and there that when he said that line, that it was going to be another of the same year. And if, halfway through the season, I stop looking at playoff standings and start looking at tankathon.
Yeah, you ain't the only one. There are a lot of people online talking about that right now.
It's just frustrating.
You know what? If you're listening to this show, it probably is up on Monday morning. That's usually when we get our show up. If they do the unthinkable and make a head coaching change right now, Sean, I know you are going to Mexico, but I'll do an emergency podcast, or at least I'll try to find time one. But what are the chances you think, sitting right now, on Sunday night, it is 6:18. If you had to put a percentage on them moving on from Matt Eberflus right now by Monday morning, what do you think the chances are, honestly?
0.0.
Lutarski, all right.
What do you think?
0.1.
I mean, you're way more optimistic than me. I was going to put a negative percentage. There's no way. There's no way. They've never done it. And it's deserved, but it's not starting today or tomorrow. It's because, and then what's going to happen is they're playing a really, really bad Patriots team next week. They should win that game. And then everyone's going to be, oh, look at that. We had a good week of practice. Look at how it turned out. And then all that goodwill is about to be gone because you're going to get smoked by the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what sucks? This right now, it might not be as bad of a team, but I think about that 2014 season, 10 years ago with Mark Trestman, when you sensed massive decline in the locker room and you saw players just straight up quitting or straight up doing foolish things like you saw Tyreek Stevenson last week, and you were calling the major question what was going on. And you're going through we had a good practice, all that bull crap. That's what happened. The only thing you have left to check on your box is losing back-to-back games by 50 points. Now, I think our defense, if it gets healthy, is too good to do that, but the way this is going, and you know what? Firing Matt Eberflus at this point wouldn't even be about righting the ship. It would be about sending a message. If you fired Matt Eberflus and you let Eric Washington handle the rest of the year, then maybe at least you get some sense of stability and some accountability from an organization top to bottom. And you know what? You know what wouldn't surprise me either? There are so many ways I could see this going. One, it's just move on, go forward. Nothing. Number two, you're going to hear, quote, leaked rumors or rumblings that Matt Eberflus's job is on the line this coming Sunday, a la Matt Nagy. Or the 0.1% chance I put is they do something about it. And I'm not confident at all they're going to do something about it. But the reason I don't put a 0.0% chance, that I put the most sliverest of chance, is because I really don't think Caleb Williams and his representatives are going to let this stand.
Oh, absolutely not. And good. Maybe that's the fire we need. And I've been thinking about it. I've made a post about it. I think Richard Hightower would be the interim head coach.
Okay.
I think he's got a lot of years in the NFL with a lot of teams. Been with the Texans, the Vikings, what used to be the Redskins when he was there, the Browns, the 49ers, and the Bears. So he's been around. I think he'd probably be, but I just don't see it happening. You're essentially, though, I've said it before, I've said it again, Ryan Poles' clock started when he drafted a quarterback. And honestly, it should have started when he gave an extension to Matt Eberflus.
Tick, 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 tick. Yeah, obviously you talk about, firing Ryan Poles and being at that point. And I think other people are getting to that point. Where I'm at personally is, I think that seat, at the very least, I think there is a rise in temperature on that seat he's sitting. I just don't think there's any way Ryan Poles is going to get fired. I feel like he's made too many good moves to absolve him. But listen, GMs can get 2 head coaches. They're not going to get 3. So if he stays around, which I think he will, he better get full autonomy of over who he hires, not the short list that George together because he talked to his good friend Ernie Accorsi or Bill Polian. And 2, he better get it right. Whoever he hires, you better get it right.
Absolutely. I mean, his seat's got to be hot, especially when you've got Ian Cunningham, who has been a finalist twice now for a GM spot, sitting right there. You can make a move and keep continuity and make a move and just fire Poles and promote Ian Cunningham. And then have your say as far as what coaches you want. It's, imagine we had the Lions offensive coordinator as our head coach. Don't you think that you would have seen a much better Caleb Williams at this point?
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you're trying to do everything you can for your young quarterback, is why didn't you give him an offensive head coach? Why didn't you give him an offensive line?
Because they thought last year that beating Josh Dobbs and Tyler Heineke and Brian Hoyer was good enough. That's why.
I'm just so tired of this loser mentality.
What have I said over and over and over again? Your standards are too low. I have said it over and over.
Well, Matt Eberflus grew a beard. He's got vibes now. Ugh.
Piss off with that. Doesn't make you a better head coach.
Well, we had 3 wins the year before. We increased to 7.
You realize that if Kirk Cousins didn't get hurt, you would have lost against the Vikings on the road. Again, you beat the crap out of Brian Hoyer, somebody that I didn't even know was still in the league until we played them. You beat Bryce Young too, barely.
It's bad. They just don't look prepared. And I know you're shorthanded on defense, but you should have been able to play better. And I was 100% wrong. I said I wasn't worried about James Conner, and I should have shut my stupid mouth because they couldn't tackle him. And that's what happens every time is the man resurrects his career by playing against the Bears and then runs over them because they can't tackle him.
Yeah, they gashed him in, absolutely gashed him in. And you know what? The defense has kept you in games for a year now. They can slip up a few times. How about you go win a shootout? How about that? Win a shootout. Unfortunately, you didn't, because you can't.
And can we talk about Keenan Allen being washed up?
Yeah, he's done.
Can't catch balls that hit him in the hand, can't keep his feet in bounds. It's been brutal. It's been brutal.
Yep, yep.
Not on the same page with the quarterback. Just yeah, I'm not mad about that trade because it should have worked out and it just hasn't.
I'd rather take a swing on that, and that is one where I could say it sucks, but I understood why you made it. Fine.
And honestly, I wonder how much of it is our bad offensive coordinator.
Nah, I don't know. I think Allen's a big boy. He had several drops. It hit him right in the hands.
The drops and the not getting his toes in bounds, like those things, 100% on him. But just not getting in the offense. And do you know what is 100% on our offensive coordinator?
Hmm.
You might have tweeted about it once or twice. Where the hell is Cole Kmet?
0 targets. 0. None.
Did he have any last week?
1.
So 1 target in 2 weeks for a struggling offense and a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. As soon as they got into the red zone, when you could have tied the game early on, I said, where's Cole Kmet? Nowhere to be seen. Three throws. And look, you could talk about pass interference or whatnot being called or what, but sometimes as a receiver, you got to overcome that and just get it. And there was no window there, and that just pissed me off. You were humming with Cole Kmet for several weeks. And now Gerald Everett has more targets over the last few weeks. This is the exact problem we saw early on in the year. And then they used Cole Kmet more, and things got better. I don't get it.
I'm just so frustrated by it.
And, I'm going to say it too. This is where things can get complicated and things can get maybe misinterpreted or misread, or where the debates begin. Caleb's deep ball is not good. And it was
No.
great in college.
Yes.
What's going on? Is it just him being a rookie?
I don't know.
It's not good.
Are there ghosts? Like I don't know. I honestly I don't know. There's a
Because
lot of his
let's be
accuracy.
real. Caleb Williams, he has a lot going bad around him, but he is not absolved from this.
No. But I just want to be fair because I've given Justin Fields and Mitchell Trubisky lots of leeway. I'm going to give that same leeway to Caleb Williams, but he's got to be better and he's got to overcome bad offensive coaching.
Now, what sucks is I thought the first drive until everything blew up in their face, I thought he looked good on the first drive. He had one throw where he threw it a millisecond too late over the middle. But other than that, he was quick, decisive, offense was going. I'm like, okay, I like how this looks. And then after that, things just kind of fell off the rails. And Caleb has to learn that on first down, I thought he did better this a few weeks ago, but we're seeing that trend again where take the check down. You did that so well against the Rams, against the Panthers, which I know it's easy, it's the Panthers or whatnot. But like the Rams game, especially where his passer rating was really good. The stat line wasn't on fire, but he had a good game because he was taking those small chunk plays. It's we've seen now where 1st and 10, you have something available over the middle, small chunk play, check down. Even if you don't get a first down, you get 6-7 yards. It sets up a much more manageable 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, or whatever. And you do the deep ball where it's just not, and as soon as he releases it, when you see where the receiver is downfield, it's not going to connect.
Yeah, it's they're not even close.
Especially with DJ Moore, that connection just isn't there. It's just not there. I support 10 out of 10 moving on from Justin Fields to Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is much smarter. I still think the ceiling is higher. I'm not giving up on Caleb Williams, but the one thing that Justin Fields was great at was his chemistry with DJ Moore. That connection was flawless. It's the one thing that Justin Fields, I thought, did well as a thrower with the Bears. And the fact that it hasn't connected yet with DJ Moore is frustrating. Do I think it's never not going to connect? I'm not saying that, but I just thought by now you would see it. The first few weeks, I get it. You're a rookie, first few games. You had the one big game against the Panthers, but you know what? A JV team and a team not the Saints can do that. But I thought by now we would see a better connection. There was one point where he hit him on a slant that ended up being really nice. I'm like, oh, see that? Try a little more of that maybe. And then it's just more misfires, disconnects, not on the same page. It's really, 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 really frustrating.
Yeah, at least Roma Dunze had a really nice game.
That's the one positive I could take from today. The one positive was that.
You had Tyreek Stevenson getting benched for 2 series. Whoop-de-doo. Um, uh, I don't know what to say. I mean, I think they'll look good next week against the Patriots because the Patriots are bad.
And they're at home.
Yeah, but I mean, what happens if they do lose? I mean,
Does it matter at this point?
no, but I think that uh the day of reckoning better come soon if you're losing to a team that's like 2-7.
Well, it's possible. You never know.
I mean, it's absolutely possible. The Patriots are 2-7. I believe they are in Tankathon in the driver's seat for worst record. And Um, the Bears are 4-3 or what? No, 4-4, right?
4-4.
4-4. I got you. You should beat them. You should beat them. They there's nothing that says like there's nothing that would make me be like, oh hey, yeah, Patriots are, you know, like they're a possibility to win this. Nothing will tell me that. I know Drake May looks decent, but their offensive line is worse than the Bears. Uh,
Yeah, and if you get Montez Sweat healthy again,
you should be able to just annihilate Drake May. Um, their their receivers aren't good. Uh, so I their defense is nothing special. Like you should be able to beat that team, and you should be able to beat them solidly, like you beat the Panthers. But there's reality in this, and if the team quits, and if they haven't quit now, just imagine when they run through that gauntlet of Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Like it's brutal. The schedule makers did not do the Bears any favors.
well, you know what? It's disgusting to say, but if you keep losing, then that's less of a chance for the Bears to keep going with this.
I mean, all right, let's look at the rest of their schedule. They're 4-4 now.
Yeah,
They probably beat the Patriots, right?
probably. Yeah,
So makes them 5-4. They lose to the Packers, right?
absolutely.
So it's 5-5. They probably lose to the Vikings,
Most likely.
5-6. They definitely lose to the Lions, right?
Oh God. If the Lions don't win the Super Bowl, I don't know what'll happen. This is one of the most dominant teams we've seen in the NFC North that wasn't piloted by like Aaron Rodgers.
So what I say on that would put them 5-5, 5-6, 5-7. Um, I think they might be able to beat the 49ers. The
They're
49ers do
they're
not look good, and
no, and they're
their
banged up too.
their quarterback has come back down to earth hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see them winning that.
Then they lose to the Vikings, they lose to the Lions. Maybe they beat the Seahawks. Maybe.
Possibly. That's a
So,
coin flip right now.
and then they lose to the Packers.
Right.
So we're looking at uh 3 more wins on the schedule
If you get three more wins, you have the same record as last year.
with upgraded weapons and your handpicked quarterback. So it's just not acceptable.
No, it's not. I mean, I could see 7, 8 wins tops. And maybe there is a possibility that maybe one of those division games you do come out on top. I know that the matchup isn't any of your favor, but with the way football works, maybe you go out and you beat the Vikings once.
I mean, that's a possibility. Is the Vikings after going, we knew that they were gonna have a situation where they came back down to earth. And um, we're seeing that a little bit. They're still a really good team,
They are.
but that's they're
If you
they're
get a healthy defense, you can. I think you can beat Sam Darnold once. Although stopping Aaron Jones is going to be an issue.
we'll see how they look. If they go out there and trounce the Colts, then maybe I'm a little less likely to believe that they'll beat them. But if they either lose to the Colts or that's a real tough game, it gives me hope that they could beat the Vikings once. But it's going to be this division that sinks them.
I mean, they're already in the process of sinking, let's be real, but yeah,
I mean, and it makes you wonder though. All right, say last week they just bat down that Hail Mary and then they come out with the victory.
Mm-hmm.
Do they come out this week and play harder and play better?
I don't know. And what I can tell you this is, let's say you won last week. Let's say also with better coaching, better decisions, you beat Indianapolis. If you were 6-1 and you came in today and you just got your bell rung, okay. Losses happen. But last week felt like a course-altering loss.
It really set the stage for the downfall of the rest of the season.
Yes.
Everything afterwards is going to be put in the lens of that play.
And remember too, I know I don't always like playing the coulda, woulda, shoulda. Imagine where the Bears would be had Will Levis not thrown that terrible pick to us in week 1.
I mean, maybe we'd be at the first midseason firing the Bears have ever done.
Because they would have, assuming the next 2 games would have gone as they'd gone, they would have started 0-3.
Yep.
I'm so defeated. This is the only way I can describe this whole thing. I'm so defeated. Because, okay, I want to put something in perspective a little bit. Are you a Netflix watcher? Do you have Netflix?
I do.
Have you watched the documentary on the 04 Red Sox that they just released?
I have it on my list of things to watch, and I actually saved it on my iPad to watch on the plane.
You're going to love it. It's fantastic. But there was something very important in there. As people know, there was one point where the Red Sox were the American League version of the Cubs. The pre-2016 Cubs. They had the curse of the Bambino over them. 80 plus years of not winning, of nothing but misery and heartbreak, and being dominated by their rivals mercilessly. You think it's bad, Bears-Packers the past 20, 30 years. Imagine being a Red Sox fan from 1920 to 1999, 2000, or really through 2003. That's when you talk about a lopsided rivalry. But at the beginning, they talked about the history of the Red Sox. You know what they talked about? Ownership. What did the Red Sox do at the turn of the century? John Henry came in as the new owner. And things immediately changed. What else happened? Here in Chicago, when the Cubs broke their curse.
The Tribune sold the team.
That's right. What happened with the Blackhawks? Old man Wirtz died.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky came in and did the exact opposite. Ownership. It all starts at the top. And you know why I'm so defeated? Because it ain't changing. It's not changing. As much as we lament over Jerry Reinsdorf, we know that ownership is going to come to an end. Not to be gruesome, but we know that that estate is going to sell the White Sox eventually.
If not before he dies.
Maybe it's very possible. Now, of course, there is a possibility that whoever buys it will try to move to Nashville, but
I don't see that, but it's it,
regardless.
it's in the realm of possibility. I don't buy it though. But yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. But we're stuck with this ownership. We're stuck with it. We're stuck with the mom and pop shop.
I wonder how things are what's gonna happen when Virginia dies.
Yeah, I don't know. I because there is part of me that wonders if that will change. And there has been some speculation, but until that, we don't know. We don't know.
I mean, because just the tax burden alone when she dies and passes the team on, they're gonna I think they're gonna have to sell part of the team to pay that tax bill. I mean, it's probably a minority stake, but you know, if you sell enough minority stake, suddenly um, you know, you have other people in the room that you have to listen to. It's not just your voice.
Yeah, I mean,
And
maybe I don't know, but how can we be confident in anything right now?
and honestly is we have no idea what Virginia McCaskey's going to do with the team. Is she dividing it up between her heirs? Is it all going to George? Like, we have no idea.
Because I mean, from what I've heard, it sounds like so much of the family wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's just George. Everybody else wants their payday.
Right. But is George going to do it?
I mean, George isn't a spring chicken either.
No, he's not. But
I mean,
like,
he's about to turn 69 years old. But I mean, as you know, that's
well, if he's got his mother's genes, he's got a while to go. God bless him.
well, I mean, you look at the rest of the family. The males didn't last very long.
No, they did not. They did
I
not.
mean, Virginia's brother died young. George's brother died, and like, so not trying to be morbid, but we'll figure things out sooner rather than later because Virginia McCaskey's about to turn 102.
Crazy. Could you imagine living a full century? That's nuts. Good for her.
Over a full
Seriously.
century. She's you know, she's lapped the century mark.
I mean, good for her. Like, frankly, good for her. That's great. But right now, the McCaskies are the owners. And
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm looking at a Bleacher Report. The Bears succession plan. What happens after Virginia McCaskey? Ba, ba, ba. Um, they haven't commented. Have a plan to keep the team in the family when Virginia dies, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. Specifics were not provided, but would require reconsolidating control of at least 30% of the team, which is now worth $5 billion, into a single wing in the McCaskey family, as it would involve the sale of some equity. Um, yeah. Here's the wrinkle. The NFL bylaws state that a single lineal family must control 30% of each franchise, which Virginia does via the voting trust. However, when she dies, the voting trust expires and the Bears' ownership will be thinly spread over more than a dozen Hallis heirs without a single person or descendant anywhere close to the 30% threshold. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I agree with you. Things need to change.
By the way, do you know Caleb Williams tweaked his ankle on the last play?
Yeah. That's another thing I had is why is he still in there when they're down by 20 with 2 minutes left? Like you can't win. Why is he still in there? haven't we seen enough enough players getting injured late to just be like, nah, let's cut our losses and not have Caleb be hurt for next week?
Wouldn't you think logic would tell you that?
I just don't have any. There's no logic when it comes to Matt Eberflus and his like at halftime when they interviewed him and he just said the most annoying thing. I told him that that's what the score is. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at.
Ugh. Well, um, White Sox news, they've declined everybody that's making any money from their contracts. Max Stassi declined, Yohan Moncada declined, and it sounds like Cody Bellinger is going to opt in for next season.
Which I'm not surprised, considering that he had a disappointing season. Not a terrible one. It wasn't bad. I think that injuries did not do him any favors. And I do know there is an argument to be made that him opting out would create more flexibility for the team. But if you are going to keep Cody Bellinger around, you can take it as long as he's closer to what he did in 2023. You need 25 plus homers. You need an OPS over 800. That's what you were paying him to do. Again, his numbers were okay in a vacuum, but not near $30 million good. So I think there's going to be some pressure on Bellinger to, assuming he's not traded, there's going to be some pressure on him to get back to where he was. He's a good ball player. I like having him on the team. It's just hard when you need to find a source of superstardom that you just don't have.
I know where they can find it.
Well, I do too.
Juan Soto.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's Juan Soto is the answer, and they're just not going to do it.
No.
It makes a lot of sense. You add that guy's bat to your lineup, and it makes all of the other players that much better, and it gives a soft landing to all the young players they're trying to bring up because you have a legit stud in your middle of your lineup.
Oh, but look at what the Diamondbacks.
Hey, Jed, the $1 billion team won, and they beat the other massive spender in baseball in the Mets, or the Yankees. And the Mets got close to the World Series. The top spenders, guess what? They won this year.
Yep. If things right in the world again. You spend a lot of money, you win baseball games. And I'm glad the two of the top spenders were in the World Series because you can't have Jed Hoyer honestly try to sell being cheap and we'll develop players. No, leave that to the White Sox and their bad losing ways. You spend money.
Don't give me the we don't need superstars bull crap. That's the thing. Don't give me that. You just saw Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. You saw them go out and beat Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton. It was a battle of the superstars. And even some of your precious lower spending teams.
Well, look at the Cleveland Indians.
By the way, first of all, it's the Cleveland Guardians. And second of all, guess what? Jose Ramirez is a star player. You don't have anybody like that.
Right. It's just frustrating. Just pay people. Get a superstar in here. I don't dislike the things that they've done with the farm system.
I don't either.
Um, there's good players on this team. There's just not great players. And you either need everybody to have a career season at the same time or bring in a superstar, a legit superstar. This World Series had 5 MVP players. 5.
And you know what? If you made a legitimate offer to Juan Soto and Juan Soto said, I'm going to stay in New York, okay, there's nothing you can do. If he wants to stay in New York, fine. It's the fact that we don't sit here and believe that they're going to even try.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I honest to goodness don't think they will.
They don't think, we're thinking about long-term success.
You know how you have long-term success? Have fucking Juan Soto on your team.
Yep. Ugh.
But hey, we have a new manager on the South Side.
We do. I think they actually do I think they got it right? I don't know. Do I think it got it right of the final 4 or the 4 finalists? Yes.
I do too.
I think he was the best of the 4 finalists. I don't know if he was the best, period. But based on the constraints of somebody that would come to the White Sox, which, I mean, if you were somebody that was, one of the possible like leading contenders for a future manager position, would you go to the White Sox?
No, I mean your pickings were slim.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to come to you, and you're not going to pay anybody, so your pickings were sort of slim, and I think they got the right one of those 4. So,
yeah, I mean, because you're not going to be winning next year. You're going to be rebuilding next year. So, if Craig Counsell was available, you weren't going to pay for or logically get Craig Counsell. Or if Bruce Bochy was available or any other big name manager. But with what you had to work with, there's no reason for me to dislike this move right now. Will Venable has been around. He was with the Cubs previously. He had a nice MLB career. He's been on the benches with a lot of good managers. He's got experience where you could say, even if he's not been a manager on the MLB level.
And he's a player.
Right. He had a good, solid MLB career. So everything I look at, it says, yeah, it makes sense. It's logical what they did.
Yeah, I don't, so far this offseason, what have the White Sox made? 3 moves? Declining Stassi, declining Moncada, and hiring Venable. Looking at it from a vacuum of starting after the World Series, the White Sox are 3 for 3 with the right moves.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about the Moncada thing real quick. It's not really getting talked about. And it's like Moncada just kind of faded into the night in White Sox lore. This was the bedrock of that rebuild.
Oh, yeah. Would you like to know what his numbers are, his slash line since the start of 2021?
Do I?
Since the start of 2021, 236, 291, 387 with a WRC plus of 88.
Oof. That's like maybe a tiny step behind mediocre.
So that was the Chris Sale trade, right?
That was the Chris Sale trade. That was what started the rebuild, because not only was Moncada the number 1 prospect in baseball at the time, you got Michael Kopech in that deal, who, by the way, got to spray champagne at Yankee Stadium the other night and be part of a victory parade.
And Chris Sale had a hell of a year this year.
He had a hell of a year this year, and he won a World Series in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But you made that trade saying we're taking a step back to take the leap forward. And because the Cubs just won the World Series doing the same process, everyone, rightfully so, bought into it. They said, okay, we get it. We've had a mediocre team for years. We weren't going anywhere. We need to completely hit the reset button. And that trade to get Yoan Moncada and Michael Kopech, that was the jumpstart. It was the genesis of the Rick Hahn rebuild era. And
and that flopped so hard.
It flopped so hard. And remember, like I said, Moncada was once the number one prospect in baseball. He had every tool known to man. He could hit. He could hit with power. He could play defense. He could run. He had an IQ. He was a switch. He had everything. And you had 2 good years out of him, a bunch of okay years, and then some really bad ones.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But I wonder what's next for him. Because no one's going to pay him anywhere near that money.
No, but you know what?
I think he's young enough and plays decent enough defense that somebody will sign him.
Oh, I think there will be teams interested. And I think you can argue that a team could go out and look at him and say, hey, we kind of need a utility platoon type guy. Maybe we get him on the cheap and we can mold him into that.
It's a possibility.
I mean, if you're on Yoan Moncada and those are the types of offers you're getting, you can prove yourself to be a worthy player. He can't be picky.
Oh, no, he cannot. He cannot.
So, we'll see what happens. And I think I read something where there's only like 2 guys left from the 2021 opening day roster. It's Luis Robert. Can't even think of who the other one is. 2021. Oh, Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
Because Eloy's gone. Moncada's gone. Anderson's gone. Abreu's gone. Yasmani Grandal is gone. Lurie Garcia is gone.
I don't know if his contract's gone, though. I think they're still paying him.
Well, yeah, but he's on the roster. Yeah. And then all the pitching. Lance Lynn's gone. Dylan Cease is gone. Carlos Rodon is gone. Dallas Keuchel's long gone. It's completely flipped, basically. The next question is, are they trading Crochet? Because there's been so many rumblings that they are going to try to trade him this offseason. So we'll see.
Let's get into the Bulls just a little bit here.
Bulls.
So Matas Buzelis got sent down to the minors. he got demoted. P. Will.
He got called back up today.
Oh, did he?
He did.
That's good. I'm like, they didn't even give him much of a shot, but Patrick Williams, he can shoot the 3 a little bit and he can play defense, but man, he's never going to progress to be anything, is he?
No, it feels like Patrick Williams is going to give you a solid bench at most, like a role type player, which in a vacuum isn't a bad thing. But remember, you drafted him 4th overall.
That was a bad draft. It sucks. I don't think that's the guy that they wanted, but that's, that was a pretty bad draft.
It was, but still, if this was like the 20th pick or even like the 15th pick, like anything beyond like 5. Yeah, it doesn't feel as bad, but you knew he was going to be a project coming in, and I mean, you might as well get any value you can out of him at this point. And if shooting the threes is value, then okay, because when the Bulls have won games this year so far, it's because they're scoring. They're going to need to score a lot of points to win because they're not going to play defense. And we saw how good their 3-point shooting was in those games that they won.
Yeah, and honestly, they're a good scoring team. And like they can score in the transition, they can score in the half court game. The problem on offense is uh, they don't have a stud 3-point shooter. Patrick Williams can. I think Zach LaVine is your best 3-point shooter. Um, and but they are able to score points. This team is just atrocious defensively. They're a tire fire defensively.
They might be the worst defensive team in basketball, if not a bottom 5. Right?
Yeah, I mean, at least though, I will say they've been fun to watch. Like, if they're gonna lose, I don't want to see like bad offense. I want if they're scoring points and they're losing, I'm actually kind of content because I didn't think they would be good. It's not like my expectations aren't being met. Like they're not good, but at least they're scoring a lot of points and making it exciting. Like Josh Giddey, I think has been like, is he great? No, but I really like how he pushes the action and he's fun to watch.
He's slowly starting to win me over a bit.
Zach,
I will admit he's played better than I initially thought.
um, Vooch does not look like a statue.
No, he's playing decently actually.
Yeah, he is. It just this team just has no defense at all. That's the problem. Um,
Now
Io and Kobe
you
are
have to
um yeah, they're just not a deep team and they just don't have any defense. Like that's the problem. And they can't rebound particularly well. They're not exceptionally good at 3-point shooting and they don't play defense. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of guys that can score from different ways and we're seeing that and my slight hope would have been that they just ran other teams to death, but they're so bad at transition defense. They're worse at transition defense than they are at half court defense, if that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I will say this. You won back-to-back games when you had 20-point deficits. That's not sustainable. You
No.
can't put yourself in that position night after night. Just saying.
Yeah, you cannot. But I don't see any improvement because I don't know who these defensive players are going to be. Um, and but you know, at least it's not a dumpster fire as far as, you know, is the Zach LaVine situation. I think that's figured itself out. I think he's been a good role player on this team.
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah.
I like the way he's been playing, and I think a lot of teams are probably looking at that complementary role that he's been playing and going, damn, we should have traded for him. Because if this version of Zach LaVine would be helping a lot of teams.
Sure. Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, he's not going to be your alpha, but he'll play a role that's key to winning on a good team. And be thankful, too, that the Zach LaVine situation seems to have stabled itself out. At least you're not the 76ers with Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
That's ugly. That's bad.
Oh well, it's not our problem.
No, it's not.
Um, let's wrap this up talking a little Blackhawks. I've been disappointed in the Blackhawks. I they don't seem they don't play well as a team. Uh, I the lines, there's no chemistry. I'm seeing. Uh, you know, the last game for 2 periods, I was screaming that, you know, this team sucks, and they don't have heart, and they come back and win it. But I I is it gonna get better? I mean, I didn't expect a ton from this team because they were so bad last year. There's only so much you can progress in the NHL historically in one off season. So, but I did expect more, and I'm not seeing it.
I'm kind of doing a balancing act on how I feel right now because on one hand, I've been a bit disappointed too. On the other hand, here are some of the positives I can try to take away. One is Lucas Reichel is looking more and more like an NHL player.
Not a great NHL player, but an NHL player nonetheless.
Yes. Yes. Like he's starting to make things happen on the ice. Good things. I ain't calling him an NHL All-Star. I'm not saying he's going to be a vital piece, but you're actually seeing progression with him. That's good. Two, I like what I see from Ryan Donato. He's been playing really, really well.
Agreed.
Now,
I would love to see a lot more from Bertuzzi and Hall and Mikheyev and Teravainen.
yeah, I mean, I think Teravainen got off to a decent start, but has gone a little cold. Bertuzzi, I agree, but he did tie the game, right? In the last, right? That was Bertuzzi's goal, wasn't it?
I think so.
But yeah, I agree. You're paying him a decent amount of money, and you want more. I get that. Now, this is far from a perfect team. There are a lot of warts, there are a lot of issues. At least for the most part, there's been a lot of frustrating losses, a lot of them. At least they're frustrating in the sense because they're close. They're not getting the shit kicked out of them night after night. They're not losing all these games 5-1, 4-0.
No, and their defense has been better, but they just don't have enough consistent offense on 5-on-5. Their
No, they don't.
power play's been pretty darn good. But the 5-on-5, they're not really a threat. And,
No, not enough
and
playmakers.
yeah, and so it's been tough.
The turnovers too is a big issue.
The turnovers, the sloppy passes, um, the mental lapses, uh, you know, not winning 50-50 puck battles on, I think they need to be more physical. And eh, I just wonder, we, I think both of us were pretty high on Luke Richardson, given, the lack of talent that he had. But now that he has more talent, I'm starting to wonder if Luke Richardson is the right guy for this job.
Well, I think the rest of the year is going to be very telling because I know it's hard to build chemistry at the snap of a finger, especially when you have some veteran players coming in with some very young players and some inexperienced players. And more of those young players are going to be part of the equation as we go. We'll see guys like Frank Nazar, who's playing pretty well in Rockford right now. I think we'll see him at some point. So there's going to be a lot of work to do with the chemistry. So I want to give it a full season. But if we don't see some drastic improvements, then yeah, I do think we might have to call in question. They may need to Joe Madden this thing. We don't know what that's going to look like by the end of the year, who's going to be available or not. But, that could be the direction that they go in. But I want to see a little more progress with the offense because you're still not scoring. You're not scoring enough. And you don't have a high-powered offense, but you want to score a little more than you do. And I'm not saying this is an excuse, but I do feel like that puck luck hasn't been quite on their side. Again, I don't want to use that as an excuse, but
No,
sometimes they just haven't gotten the bounces.
yeah, you need some puck luck, to play in this league, and you're right, they have not had that. And there's been some plays where you're just like, how many times do I have to yell, how did that not go in?
Yeah.
And it's missing by millimeters.
Connor Bedard's had a little bit of bad puck luck. You saw that movie made in overtime yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know how that did not go in.
Yeah. It's, you've seen some, you're just like, how in the hell? Guys whiffing where there's a juicy rebound and nobody there and whiffing, and crossbars and side of the side of the net, and uh you know just you're like, how going into the 5 hole but somehow just clipping the tip of the skate. It's infuriating. And honestly, I've been
Yeah.
surprised I've been able to see as much as I have, because I'm watching over the air.
Buzz, buzz, buzz with the antenna.
I have my daughter standing on the roof with tinfoil.
Dad, my arms are getting tired. Just one more period.
It's going into third period. It's tied. Stay up there.
Dad, there's squirrels up here and they're getting kind of nuts.
So I'm hoping for a bit of a turnaround. Again, I don't have these high expectations because they were a bad team last year. So
Yeah, this is by no means a cup contender.
So even if you were to have like an absolutely huge step forward, you're still a bad team.
Right. We just want to see some improvement and growth.
Right.
And frankly, I think recently the best storyline has been Lucas Reichel.
Yeah, I mean, it started off a little rough, and he's been gradually growing. And I mean, I don't see him being outside of a bottom 6, but he's solidifying himself in that bottom 6. It's not like if he keeps playing like this, he's going to own that third or fourth line. But I mean, he's still young. Was he 22?
Yeah, he's not very old. It seems like he's been around forever, but he's still very, very young.
Yeah. So I do like that story. That's been a good story.
It is. Let's hope it keeps growing.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, no. I think I've said my piece. I'm tired of all my teams losing.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Well, at least next week we have a good shot of winning.
Yay.
All right. Well, with that, this is going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. Help grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter /X, or Alexander J. Pat Creative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win.
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan.
She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.